Hi, Bosnian community. My name is Fariz Saracevic, and I'm initiator of the idea of Bosnian Agile community. I have a pleasure today to speak with Jurgen Appelo. Jurgen is co-founder of Agile Lean Europe and Stu's Network. We would like to take a chance to talk with Jurgen about some interesting developments in Agile. So Jurgen, what do you think Agile management often overlooked?
So why is Agile management often overlooked? That's a great question, and I think it could be because I see management as the glue between everything else. And so, for example, we have software development, we have marketing, we have human resources, system administration, etc. And over time, over the years, people have had a tendency of specializing in their own areas, and also coming up with methods to improve the way we work in those areas. Like we have Agile, we came up with Scrum and stuff like that in the Agile space, particularly to solve software development problems. And then it turns out that it is not as successful as we had hoped when we ignore the management stuff, when we ignore the glue between software development and all the other people that are working in an organization. So Peter Drucker, the famous management expert of the last century, said that management is the critical determining factor. He said this several decades ago already. And I believe it is no surprise that we now see that management issues such as organizational culture, change management, competence development, etc., are the biggest problems that people struggle with in the Agile world. That is all management stuff. But because we have a tendency to look at our own specialization, software development, we have a preference for solving our own problems, and then we notice, we cannot improve unless we get everyone else involved in the organization as well. And then you'll need the managers.
Okay, thank you. Bosnia actually has a very vibrant and young IT community, and one of the key drivers behind this community is innovation. So what would be your advice to this young IT community?
The advice for a young community is to learn from the failures from others, I suppose. There's always an opportunity not being the first to do something, and we know some countries in the world are ahead of others in terms of Agile adoption, but they're also ahead of others in terms of doing things wrong. And this is an opportunity for the emerging Agile communities to look at what went right and what went wrong elsewhere, to learn from that. And one thing that went wrong in many cases is that people confuse practices for principles. So as I often use the metaphor for driving, for example, the principle of driving a car is to get where you want without killing anyone or causing any problems. Those are good principles, but it is not enough to give people just those principles. That's not the way to teach people how to drive. They need to know how to use the steering wheel and how to use the indicators, etc. Those are practices. The problem is that people often become dogmatic about applying the practices. Then they are very dogmatic about the way you hold the steering wheel, the way we do 15-minute stand-up meetings, because Scrum says it should be 15 minutes, so we stop at 16. Well, then the principle becomes dogma. This is a problem that we've seen in many places in the world. I think young Agile communities could learn from that by understanding what the principles are, but not being too dogmatic about the practices, and but still stealing good ideas from other sources, because the wheel has been invented already many times. You don't have to reinvent it. Just look at what others are doing and adapt it. Adapt those ideas to the local culture, because I'm sure Bosnia is a little bit different from the rest of the world, like the rest of the world is a little bit different from Bosnia.
Okay, thank you. Another thing is, when you look at the Agile, history started way before 2001 when Agile Management was written. So I think from that perspective, and history of Agile is well understood. But question I would ask you is, where do you think Agile future is and where it should be going?
Where Agile is going, that depends on how attached you are to the word Agile. As you've indicated, we've started doing things the Agile way before the Agile brand was conceived. I often give design thinking as an example, which is being Agile in product design, but they started in the 80s of last century. Lean was there before Agile, if my history is correct. It was just not known, lean manufacturing, the principles within the software development world. So many people use different words, actually. I don't care that much about the words. I like the word Agile. I use it myself because it suits my purposes. But if people get sick of the word Agile, it's fine with me. We'll use another word. But that doesn't change the scientific foundation upon which Agile principles are based. So shorter feedback cycles, that will never be different. We'll never say after Agile, well, let's make the feedback cycles long again. that would be weird, because the science says clearly that faster feedback cycles are better. Will we still be using the word Agile in the future? I don't know. Maybe another word will be used. But Agile will be around still for a while. I think that's my prediction. We will just see other methods emerging. I see methods such as Scrum and Kanban disappear faster than the Agile brand, because Agile is principles. And the practices, you will have to update them every now and then. It's just like we need different ways of driving around. When there are new cars come along and you need new practices, maybe in the future we will be driven around by our cars. We don't use the steering wheels ourselves anymore. But the principle of not killing anyone, that remains the same, I'm quite sure.
And I just want to conclude is Bosnia Agile is a fairly young community, and we're always looking for to refine our way of working. What would be your advice? What would be your retrospective on today's event, and how we can improve it going forward?
You can improve by iterating faster. One of the main problems, I think, with conferences is that they usually take place once per year. And that is a relatively slow feedback cycle. That means the things that you learn today, you can only apply next year to try again, and then see what you can improve. So the trick is coming up with a way of doing a faster feedback cycle with smaller events that you organize. You can have an annual event like a big one, like this one, scheduled every year around the same time, but it would be very useful to have smaller events where you can practice things, where you can have a dry run of a new idea before you apply it to the big conference. This is something that has been on my mind for a while, because I see some conference organizers, and I attend lots of conferences, they learn quite slowly, so to speak. And of course, look at what the others are doing. So visit other conferences, and there you can see that they have different ways of welcoming people in the morning, different ways of handing out goodies to people, different ways of distributing food, etc. So because together you can iterate faster with more conferences in the world. Just see what the others are doing.
That's a great advice. Thank you, Jurgen, and we're looking forward to have you on one of those next smaller events here in Bosnia.
It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Fariz Saracevic for Bosnia Agile.